Why is Watergate such a big deal? I mentioned this in class a long time ago. In 2012, did you know in 2012 the GOP, in other words, the Republican headquarters, was bugged by Democratic, I'm not going to say it was called a Political Action Committee. Did you know that? Did you hear that? During the 2012 election, did anybody hear that? Maybe one. It's true. But you didn't hear it, right? Now, why am I shocked that you didn't hear it?
Democrats are in control.
Well, what is Watergate about?
Exactly, the Democratic headquarters and
The GOP Political Action Committee, in other words, it's not the Republican Party, nor was it the Democratic Party. It's a political action group. This is the PAC that has literally the worst acronym in history. And I don't know that they ever used this acronym, but during the investigation, everybody else used it. It was the Committee to Re-elect the President. Now, they did not put this on their letterhead. They just simply said, the Committee to Re-elect the President. But once this came out, of course, that was the acronym everyone used. Bad idea. Okay, so Committee to Re-elect the President, right? They're the ones that put a bug in the Democratic headquarters in 1972. Did anybody hear about it?
yes.
No, it's very funny. This gets uncovered in October of 72. And the fact of the matter is, nobody cared about it in October or November. Why do we know? Because what happens in November of 72?
Nixon gets elected.
Nixon gets elected by a landslide. And let's really be honest here. Do you think this bug has anything to do with him being elected by a landslide? No, of course not. There's not enough intelligence that could cause you to suddenly change the minds of 40% of the people. Right? So there's no connection there. The reason why he gets this election by a landslide is this law and order. Somewhere around here. This is what gives him the election by a landslide. He's campaigning on this. People like it. It appeals to them. So, then we have this situation. And the question is, why did we hear about it? Well, Washington Post, Woodward and Bernstein, they put this on the cover. Front page news for about, put this on the cover of the news for about 18 months. So 18 months, headlines. So this idea isn't allowed to die. And because it's constantly there, Nixon eventually steps down. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about too many of the details. This is an issue that is rife with conspiracies, but let's make it really simple. First of all, was there any evidence that Nixon ordered the bugging of the Democratic headquarters? No. So we'll just put that out. Okay? So no. Secondly, did Nixon get impeached?
No.
No. Okay? Was there a big impeachment process in the midst of which he was certainly to lose, and that's why he stepped down?
Yes.
No. No. Okay. Were there people talking about it? Yes, but you have to really put that in context. Are there people today talking about impeaching Obama? Sure. People talking about impeaching Eric Holder? Sure. Do people talk about impeaching like almost at the drop of a hat? Sure. And they can even do file paperwork and they have hearings, okay? Does this necessarily mean that it's going to have traction? So then if it's not because he's threatened to lose, then why does he step down? And this is a lot easier than it sounds. And the thing is that history books make it sound so much easier if they kind of say, oh, he was guilty, everyone knew he was guilty, okay, we didn't find the evidence, but we all knew it, and so he knew it, and so he knew he was going to get caught, and that's why he steps down. It makes the story a lot easier. But there's also an easier story. It just takes a lot more explanation to make. What would be another reason why he would step down? Okay. What caused him to win? election of 1972.
Law or
Law and order. And so, you know, if a priest gets caught in a sexual scandal, does the world know about it?
yes.
Yes. When Sleazy Rick gets caught in a sexual scandal, does the world know about it? No, they could care less. Why? Because they expect Sleazy Rick to do things like that, right? When somebody who stands up for something gets caught, whether or not the person's actually guilty is not nearly as important as what we call the appearances of impropriety. The appearance of impropriety. This is the definition of scandal. The appearance of impropriety. Impropriety, in other words, it looks like you did wrong, and people think you did wrong. It doesn't really matter if you did wrong. Who tells or asks Nixon to step down? The Democrats or the Republicans? The Republicans. It was George Bush, the elder. He's the one that goes, knocks on Nixon's door, gives him a letter, you need to step down. Because as long as you're here, the Republicans lose all credibility. And then what does Nixon do? He does step down. Because of the credibility. 2 seconds here. This is much more difficult to explain unless you understand about this law and order. That's what gets him elected. This is what the country recognizes. If you understand that, it makes sense why he steps down. Let me do one more little touch. I know we're about a minute over. If Nixon steps down, right, and he steps down in 74, okay, we've already left Vietnam. Is anybody going to remember these things that he did? They do remember he's associated with Vietnam. Do they necessarily remember in what way? So in 75, the year after he stepped down, and we get these reports of these terrible atrocities and everything in Vietnam, and we're already kind of depressed because our president stepped down, which means he must have been doing something wrong, then how do we rethink Vietnam? Is this a success? Do we win Vietnam? It's an utter disaster. And who's at fault about this? Nixon. I had a college student about 15 years ago absolutely telling me, you know, Nixon was a war criminal. He was a war criminal because of Vietnam. This is a guy, of course, that has no particular knowledge, but he was very emotionally charged up. Yeah, he should have been tried for war crimes because of Vietnam. I said, you know, he did get us out of Vietnam. No, he's and it's this association. He steps down. He's associated with Vietnam, with Watergate. There's a negative association with him. A negative association comes right immediately after. The facts kind of don't matter. Talk about this. Questions, comments?